If you're just angry all the time and you're pissed and you can't understand why these idiotic people don't get it, and you have a lot of anger, maybe moral anger. I do. Like, how could anybody use plastic water bottles, right? That angers me. How we can turn that anger, and rather than let it eat us up inside, because there's a lot of bad things in the world, and turn that anger, particularly moral anger, into moral ambition. That's the process. I was recently in Japan hanging out with a friend who's a vegan, and he just didn't get why I'm not a vegan, and it bothers him to think that he thinks of me, his judgment of me is that I'm a fairly smart guy who's been around the world and studied nutrition and have a heart, and just doesn't understand why I'm not a vegan. And you know what? He may be right, but he's just pissed. He can't live with it. Now, I could say, well, why is he being so judgy? I remember I was with a friend, good guy, and he ordered out from an Italian restaurant, and he's eating a veal shank. And I go, veal? Huh. And was judgment. Like, veal, like to get that beef a little bit more tender, you're going to allow them to treat the cow so poorly. So imagine that scenario where people sit around and go, well, why didn't you just order the chicken? And someone else goes, the way they treat chickens, the hormones, the antibiotics, that's not any better. Why don't you just get eggplant parmesan? Oh my gosh. Parmesan? Like, do you know what they do to dairy cows? Just get the eggplant with the vegan almond cheese on it. Somebody else goes, you know what they're doing with the almond farms in California? The destruction of the environment and the labor practices and the shortages creating. Everyone's going to have a judgment on that. And what I say in that situation is, if that angers you, because you could be angry about someone eating any of those things, start by getting curious and really be open to being wrong. I think with my friend, I don't really think he knows how they make the veal. And if I kindly said to him or maybe ask him a question, he might rethink that choice. We're going to get more how to communicate later, but maybe he doesn't know. And maybe I don't know. I mean, I think eating veal is bad, but what's better, right? So let's get really curious, and let's also realize that we're not perfect. We got to start there, because I care about the environment. I care about the world. I drive a car. I got on a plane. So we start with the humility of I'm not perfect, and the choices I'm making, every choice I make has an impact. And some of them are for my own pleasure at the expense of the environment or at the expense of animals. So I would say start with some humility, and that will create some compassion. Once you get on that moral high ground and that pedestal, you start looking down and realizing that others aren't perfect and we're not perfect is a good place to start. So I eat wild salmon. Like, I think it's good for my body. And I think that if other people keep eating salmon, now there's an incentive to keep the oceans and the seas cleaner. So the fishing industry, it behooves the world for us to be eating fish because we got to keep the ocean clean. Now, is that a fact or is that a rationalization? Have I really researched it? And I'm sure I could go down any rabbit hole to tell me that eating wild salmon is terrible for a lot of reasons, but I'm open to being wrong. Present me with the evidence of why eating wild salmon is bad, and I'm open to changing. So the first step is getting curious and be open to being wrong. The second step is really think about 4 or 5 things. Every decision, think about your body, your appearance, your wallet, the earth, and by the earth, we're talking animals, pollution, climate, and other people. For example, when I was living in Venice, California in 2009, I didn't have a car. There was a lot of farmers markets. I would ride my bike to farmers markets. One of the things I realized is I didn't have any trash. Wow. Another thing is I lost a lot of weight. If you watch my TED Talk in 2011, I was 188 pounds. So these choices I made were good for my body and appearance. They were good for my wallet. I wasn't making much money at the time, and I was able to live, and they were good for the environment. I had a very low footprint. I'm getting on my bike and getting vegetables and food grown locally. It was great. And I think for the most part, again, my bias is bottled water, bad for your body. I mean, the more we learn about microplastics, bad for your body, bad for your wallet, bad for the environment. Easy. Just carry around a stainless steel water bottle. Get a reverse osmosis system. So when we get more conscious conscious and we think about these things and we actually weigh our decisions and have a broader perspective of how does this impact animals. In factory farming, we'll talk about that more later, you think you're just getting cheap meat. And some people go, well, I know grass-fed's better for my body. But this is the thing where eating the cheaper conventional meat is better for your wallet in the short term, right? The conventional meat's going to be cheaper. But there is so many downstream negative impacts in terms of labor, in terms of water, in terms of the ecosystem, like really, really negative. And you might just go, I like my bacon. I like my cheap bacon. Or I find that a paleo diet or a keto diet or carnivore works best for me. I just want to get ripped, or I just want to lose this weight and have more energy. I don't really care about the animals. Okay, all I'm saying is think about these things. And generally, when you're making conscious decisions, there's a positive impact all the way around. Next, rank them. So for we'll call him my vegan friend, he's not eating animals. Just like you wouldn't eat a dog, he wouldn't eat a pig, period. And he's not going to eat because he cares about animals. In his case, he cares about the environment. And he would say, I don't care. Even if I knew that animal protein was better for my body, my muscles, than plant protein, I care more about the animals. Now, he would tell you that it's a win-win because plant protein is actually better for his body as well. Now, that can be debated. To have some sort of moral compass and some sort of spine that says, these are my non-negotiables. If I had to be on the verge of dying of dehydration, I'm not going to drink a plastic water bottle. But, I have my limits. And so really get clear, who are you? And that's a big part of his identity, that he's just not going to eat animals, period. And if you gave him a bunch of evidence on why it's better for his body or why it's better for his wallet, that's his number one. So rank them. Rank these things: body, wallet, earth, other people. And you might say, hey, right now I'm struggling to get by. I need the cheapest calorie I can get. Whatever meat's on sale at Costco or whatever food's on sale at Costco, that's what I'm eating. Okay, next, if you've got some outrage, and there's so much to be pissed about, right? I can't believe the shit that Trump is pulling. I can't believe that conscious people are still eating animal products. I can't believe that people are using single-serve plastic bags and plastic bottles and that people pollute. I walk around and it frustrates me. The fact that people are mean to each other, the fact that people cuss each other out. There's so much to be mad about, okay? And again, this vegan friend of mine has a lot of anger, man. Come on. We know the information's out there. We should not be treating animals poorly. Factory farming is horrible. And he's mad. First of all, I do think you have to look in the mirror. If you're really angry, you got to start with your own actions. And so even with the example, I'm not being a hypocrite around plastic water bottles. I don't use them. But the real anger is I'm not doing enough. And I'm doing things in other areas. So one, take that anger and really be honest with what you're doing in your role. Along those lines, have compassion for others. Some people just don't know. Again, my friend with the veal, and we have a good relationship. If communicated in a kinder way, and if I'm actually right, I do think that there's some cruelty in creating veal, he would likely make a different choice. So one, really start with ourselves in our own actions. Two, have compassion for others. And then three, how we communicate that to others. The pointing the finger and you're a bad person. And even my friend, when he went on the soapbox about being a vegan, there was an element of anger and judgment, and that just didn't land so well on me, And then later he's like, I'll send you some articles and some podcasts. And that was a better approach. But shaming people, yelling at people, it may work for some. I think listening, I think understanding, and showing people a better way. Just like when you take a toy away from a kid or a dog, you gotta replace it with something else. And then with that in mind, engage in the most important action. What's actually going to move the needle around this thing? So both my parents, who I love and are kind people, drink out of plastic water bottles and use plastic bags. It drives me nuts. Those debates aren't really going to help much. They see what I do. They think I'm nuts. But they see me with my stainless steel water bottle and I bring my own bags to the grocery store. I'm setting the example. They don't care. And if my parents make that choice, the impact's relatively small, really small. Whereas perhaps by making this video. And really, that's a bit of a cop-out too. Like, I could be doing a lot more. We're going to get to that. But what's the highest impact you can do with this anger and with this rage? And fighting with people and getting in Twitter wars about your politics, I don't think does much of anything. Which takes me to really the beginning of this is how to transform it, how to move it. And there's a book called Moral Ambition by Rutger Bregman. I saw him on a podcast and I started following him. And he's the guy that said the factory farming just needs to be illegal. So as a younger man, I had hair, I used to be more libertarian, thinking, well, the market will figure it out and customers will figure it out. And if they're really hurting the animals, people will know, and maybe the industry will govern itself and the quality of the meat will be lower. That's not working. People want the cheap meat and they don't want to think about where it came from. It's not working. So in this case, I agree with him. We have to change the laws. And again, we know the Tysons of the world and the food processors have a lot of lobbyists and a lot of power. And that, for him, it's what he thinks is the highest impact thing. And he's asking people to donate. And I'm going to donate. I haven't yet. I'm going to donate. And I want to do more. And so if you have all of this anger and judgment and you see a lot of the things that are happening in the world as horrible, and there are, you really got to take responsibility. Look at your own actions. Look at the way you're communicating with people and look at the highest impact things you can do to make these things better, because your outrage on Twitter, your judgment of people, your pointing fingers isn't helping. I'm projecting here. There's a lot more to do and we got to get to work. And if we can take that anger and we can transform it into action. So moral outrage into moral ambition, we're really on the right track. This is a pep talk to myself, and I hope you walk away thinking about those choices, thinking about, I just want to get bigger and stronger, so I'm going to eat more meat. Okay, what's the cost to your wallet, to the environment, to animals? I even think about traveling. Oh, do I really need to travel to make more money? All of those choices. Again, if you're angry, good. If you're pissed, if you look at the world and see a lot of wrong, great. Get to work transforming it.